Market Peak with Seth and Matt. All right, so welcome everybody. This is Seth and Matt with Market Peak, P-E-E-K. Going to give you a peek of the market. This is Friday, May 28th, 2021. Please, before we get started, subscribe over there, like around this area down here. If you want to email us, we are marketpeak at gmail.com. We have a lot to cover today. We're going to be talking about Amazon's big purchase of MGM, which is huge. Will space continue to rise? That's a question. Obviously, they had a pretty good week. AMC and GME take off again. You know, it's like one of those situations where it's just, you know, like it keeps on trucking. And then also, will the Feds change course? Because we have the Federal Open Market Committee meeting coming up. And it's going to be interesting to see if they decide to make any changes, maybe some interest rate stuff. And so it's going to be interesting. Matt, of course, is going to have his three charts. As always, we'll make our predictions. And please don't forget to check out our other show, Because We Said So. It is a current event show. We talk politics. We talk everything from the most dangerous journeys in the world, the most interesting hotels, some of the haunted paintings of the world. We also did our last episode on the hijacking in Belarus, or the Belarus hijacking. So really, really cool show. We are not financial advisors. We want to get that out of the way. We got to do it. It's just a part of the way things are. So we are definitely not financial advisors. None of this is official financial advice. Do your own research, do your D squared, all that neat stuff. And so, Matt, how's it going out there?
Good, man.
Yeah?
Good. Long to talk about. Yeah. How you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. It's been an interesting week, that's for sure. A lot of action going on this week. So holiday weekend, which is great. You know, having the extra time off. It's going to be pretty awesome. That's for sure. So, all right. Well, with that, I think we'll go ahead and just jump into swaggy stocks that's in front of me. So, interestingly enough, AMC's taken up about 53% of everything on swaggy stocks, which is a pretty big number. I mean, I don't know if I've seen GameStop get that high, to be honest with you. So, BB after that, which I guess is BlackBerry, so 12%. Then you got GameStop behind there, which is probably higher earlier in the week, but it didn't do as well today. That's for sure. So, yeah, AMC closed out at 26. Which isn't too bad. If we actually look at the day, it's down a little bit. It opened up right around 25.91, and then ended up closing right around the same. I guess you include after hours. It closed up at 25.91, but pretty flat for the day. But overall, pretty good week. As you can see, it started off around like $12 and finished at 25. Pretty cool, man.
120% move.
Yeah, not bad.
Trough to peak. Not shabby.
No.
If you look at its yearly chart, I mean, it is just taken off.
Yeah, for sure.
And you were saying people were excited to, in your opinion, return to, the movie theaters, and it looks like that is kind of bearing out.
That might have been a catalyst for them to say, here we go, let's do it. I don't think it's officially affecting the price like that, but it's definitely a factor. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at this Fox Business article. AMC, GameStop, space short sellers down $2.7 billion this week.
I saw that. Yes.
Some people dumping their positions and sending the price higher,
which is great.
Yeah. What do you think accounts for AMC's kind of outsized move relative to its two other short squeeze partners, GME and Space?
I think, Space.
Both up about 40% at one point.
I kind of keep. We're actually going to be talking about Space after we talk about AMC and GME, SPCE, Virgin Galactic. So I don't put it in the same realm, even though it is heavily shorted. But it's not like a meme stock where people were like, let's take it to the moon, even though it would be kind of funny, space to the moon, ha ha ha. But I feel like it's not really in the same realm. I feel like people get into it because of the fact that they are sending people to space. It had canceled flights. That really is what brought it down. But AMC and GME, I mean, obviously the two of them are kind of in cahoots a little bit. And if I pull up GME, is for what it did actually for the week. As you can see, it started at 173, finished at 221. It was actually up to about 267, almost 270. So it had a pretty big move as well. I just think like enough chatter happened on swaggy stocks, or not on swaggy stocks, on Wall Street Bets, which is illustrated through swaggy stocks, and on Stock Twits, and on Facebook, that people were like, okay, here's the next run. We're going to do it. And here you go. I mean, do you agree? Do you feel like there's a fundamental reason for why it went up?
I think from a chart perspective,
I say AMC and GME, I guess both of them.
Sure. So comparing the two, if you zoom out and look at the year chart on both AMC and GME, you'll see that both have spent the past few months building out support, but AMC has looked a little more, shall we say, kind of stable.
Sure.
We really haven't seen sellers be able to get this under that $8 mark for a while.
Sure.
You've seen successive attempts. And when you see successive attempts at bringing a price down, especially a price of a very volatile stock like this, that normally means that you have strong support at a certain level. And I think after months of trying to suppress this thing, you see some short sellers, and just some bears, some AMC bears, start to give up. On their positions. And I think that's, from a fundamental chart perspective, the reason why AMC kind of went a little higher than GME, which has been a little, more volatile.
Sure.
I'm seeing now it's still, we're still having issues getting the stock underneath, we'll say for today's purposes, maybe like that 160-ish level.
Sure.
So there is support there, but the chart just doesn't look as good as AMC's chart.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Time frame.
And if you actually, you can draw even with both of them, you can draw a fairly defined wedge, both of them. And if you look at them, the two of them, you could definitely see that AMC's just completely took off as opposed to what GME did. But still, either way, it's, there's definitely a wedge pattern that was forming. And, in a situation like these meme stocks, it's much more likely to go up at the end than it is to go back down. So maybe following these wedge patterns and kind of, trying to time it right wouldn't be like the worst situation in the world. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess the question is, we normally save our predictions for the end, but I think in this case, do you feel like, so obviously we have a 3-day weekend. Oftentimes after a 3-day weekend, you can expect things to go back, to go up because investors are itching, nothing's going on, let's make some moves. Do you feel like these meme stocks continue, or do you feel like people are going to cash in?
In the case of AMC, it does look like we could at any day now see a temporary peak.
Yeah.
In price action. Just given the nature of, the breadth and scope of the move we saw this week. 120% is significant. I wouldn't, people are going to take profit at one point.
Sure.
It could be soon, but, we could end up, blasting higher.
Yeah, that's true.
Next week, shortened trading week. Next week, we normally trade on lower volume and path of least resistance when you have low volumes typically up. I think it depends on the broader market, on how the IWM small cap index is doing too. That's been kind of outperformed to the upside slightly, during this past week, but it's still kind of hovering right around that 52-week high,
sure,
along with the other indices. And do we sell before peaking out again, before moving higher? I personally think the market just goes higher and we post all the major indices, including small caps, post new all-time highs next week.
Wow.
So in that setting, I think AMC and GME and space could squeeze higher.
Sure.
But, there are other factors in play, like do we wait until the FOMC to right around there till there's more clarity on what the Fed will do, because that's what the market is kind of hanging on right now.
And the market can sometimes dip a little. It always tends to dip after the Fed, and sometimes it can be stagnant beforehand because, people want to wait to see what type of result we're going to get. We're going to be talking about that later on in the show, the meeting with the FOMC, but we'll see what happens. My brother's kind of pissed that he sold AMC at 19. He bought it around like 9. So I got to give him credit, for...
That's a great profit.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. He's new. He's new to investing. When he bought AMC, I'm like, really, bro? Like, okay, well, this is what you do. Hold it, and then when it breaks through 16, then look for it to see if it's going to sell. That's exactly what happened. Kicking himself in the butt. Actually, this morning, he was kicking himself even a little bit more because you look at where it started for the day. It was up. It was up quite a bit, and he saw it tanking, and But anyway, I think he's all right. Hopefully, he did hold it, and we'll see what happens to him on Monday. All right, so let's jump into space. SPCE. This is Virgin Galactic. Which is a stock that we talk about quite a bit. I'm a huge fan of everything space. Just to kind of go over what happened in the charts recently. So you could see back here in December, it started to raise up. It was supposed to have a test flight, and it didn't actually happen, so it sunk. And then, they're like, the next one's coming in February. It's like, oh my God, it's going to be huge. And nope, it got canceled again, sunk, and then everything sunk, as you can see, went down. And then finally, they had a positive test. You can see, I'll go back to the 5-day. And obviously, after that positive test came back, everything positive test. I mean, it's funny you say that. It's like, yeah, it tested positive. But yeah, they got the test flight. It worked out really, really well. And as you can see, the stock started to do, extremely well. Even today, it had a pretty big jump before it settled down a little bit. But I gotta say, finally, we're finally getting their asses off the ground, and I think it's a pretty cool thing for sure.
Well, and really quickly, if you look at the year chart on, so if you look at the year chart, you'll see that we've been respecting that kind of 14.5, 15.5 support level.
Sure.
And that support level has been respected throughout the entire year. So like from a chart perspective, it looks like, we're really ready for a bounce right now. We've gotten a really significant bounce, and that kind of makes me think, we're actually, kind of like reversing trend here.
Sure.
And if that's the case, I mean, and we start closing above that $35 level. I mean, I could easily see a move higher than that. We'll see. This stock seems to be like more fundamentally driven right
100%, 100%.
Which is interesting.
Why do you feel it's interesting? Because it's Richard Branson, who has a very successful airplane company, even though he definitely had some troubles going through everything with COVID and stuff like that. But the question is obviously they've got stuff going on. They're sending people to space. It's going to be a revenue stream. Why? Because they haven't sold anything? I mean, would that be a reasoning?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay,
so
sure.
The cynic in me thinks, this being
financial fundamentals. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. It's interesting that this one is actually a little more tethered to reality.
Sure.
In spite of the name, in spite of its, kind of like business model.
Absolutely.
Especially when compared to, its other meme brothers and sisters.
Sure.
Who really, in some cases don't trade at all in fundamentals. So
yeah.
But then that kind of like lends like a little more legitimacy, I think, to the price action.
Absolutely.
Of this stock. So
I mean, when they have a unsuccessful test flight, it drops, or one that doesn't even go into the air, and then when it does have a successful one, it goes up, or sometimes in anticipation of it going up. It's funny because when it started going up around January 11th, and then like a month later peaked out double where it was in the beginning of January 11th. Like that, which was literally a month later. That was a situation where they were anticipating the test flight. It's going to be great. Things are going to be awesome. But this one here, hell no. They're like, successful? All right, now we're going to go up. So they weren't doing any anticipation. They didn't want to get fooled again. This is a stock where people really care about what is actually happening. No memeing whatsoever, which is why I couldn't really put in with AMC and GME. But it is heavily shorted. So, those people aren't doing too well, as we said. Real quick, Virgin Galactic has performed its third voyage to the edge of space using the Spaceship Two rocket plane. This flight, which took place on 22nd of May, was first to take off from the company's Spaceport America facility in New Mexico. So it basically has two parts. It has the part that goes up, takes the rocket basically to about 50,000 feet. And then the rocket essentially is what is holding the passengers. That goes up to about 50 miles, 55.4 actually, to be at Mach 3. Dude, that's got to be one hell of a ride. So, but you were thinking like things are going to start turning up, things are going to be, going to be better, which is why it's interesting that ARK Invest, ARK basically, EFT has completely shedded its last 12, it's hilarious, 12 shares of Virgin Galactic from its ARK X fund. And so the tiny position was a position that at one point was 672,000 shares. So she sold it when it was down like 15, which is weird because we talked about this. How, like, why would she sell it? And you're like, well, because there's something being planned. But she sold it right at that level that you felt we were having super support.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't know the end of the day. Obviously, that was a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
But I did, we did kind of discuss the idea that, maybe negative headlines in this case might not be telling the whole story.
Because it was her, Richard Branson, and one other person. I think it was the person who started the SPAC forum that all sold in like the same week, like major positions. It's just weird.
And had you dumped your positions, you would have gotten hurt. Depending on what your cost basis was. But I mean,
well, it's double.
Look at us now.
It's double where they dumped it like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Just weird.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, Virgin Galactic Holding Inc. was sued by an investor who claims he lost money when the space tourism company announced that it would restate its result due to a regulatory guidance about the accounting treatment. So basically, on April 30th, it said that it would have to restate its 2020 results because of accounting guidance of regulators related to special purpose acquisition companies. So they basically changed the guidance. Basically, warrants were issued as investors in the deal. So basically, they changed the guidance for the warrants to where instead of it being considered an asset, it actually be considered a liability. So Space had to change their filing, which had nothing to do with them. So the investor is freaking suing. So what's going to happen? Mark my words. Now, there's going to be a class action freaking lawsuit. So the shorters are, doing all this shit just to short the stock once again. Then all of a sudden you do research on this company on like Yahoo Finance. All you're going to see is all the freaking law firms that, in the news that are, class action lawsuiting. Already, dude, already starting with this shit.
Yep. And, whether or not you dump your positions, is up to you. If your cost basis is low, I mean, it never hurts to trim a little bit and take some profit.
Sure.
But, if you got in at like that $30 level and you start seeing negative headlines, the question is, are you going to diamond hand that?
You should. I mean, honestly, I think so. I feel like people getting into this stock, granted, as we both know, I made a lot of money buying and selling this stock over the last year. But I think right now, it's not like it's at all-time highs. It's not even close. They just had a successful test flight. Like, if you want to dump it, take a little bit of a profit. But I cannot wait until Tuesday to see what happens because guaranteed it's going to be class action lawsuits all over the freaking place just because of this, because the shorters want to get their money, and that's exactly how it starts. Tesla, like Switchback. I mean, all of them have, just name it. Every single company when it jumps up, QuantumScape. All right, so Amazon buys MGM for $8.4 billion. Billion dollars, which is nothing for Amazon. It's a freaking $1 trillion plus company, but it's interesting news. I gotta say, no doubt about that. Yeah. I mean, we didn't even know this was happening, did we? Like, it wasn't even like in the conversation from what I could tell.
No, they just announced it.
Yeah. Sneaky, man. Sneaky. Secrets.
I mean, that's 4,000 films and 17,000 hours of TV.
Yeah.
That Amazon just acquired.
Trying to, compete with Netflix and Disney. Disney's that's the hardest one, because obviously they don't have the broad base that you're going to get with MGM at all. Like MGM, I mean, Wizard of Oz, Singing in the Rain, Ben-Hur. Like they've been...
James Bond.
Yeah, well, James Bond for sure is a big one. And I have a list of all of them. But just Wizard of Oz, Singing in the Rain, Ben-Hur. That's how long these guys have been putting out classic movies. You know? And granted, Disney has been too, like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Believe it or not, that stuff was made in the 50s. Like they've been doing it also, but it's just not as broad-based. Star Wars, awesome. You know, Marvel, awesome. Like they have some entities, but they don't have like the repertoire, I guess you could say, of this company. But Amazon's trying to compete with that, you know, and Netflix for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, I guess now Amazon will have exclusive rights to streaming any movie or TV, you know,
in its program.
MGM creates in the future.
100%.
So they're still producing content.
Yeah, and they're going to continue to. That's for sure. So MGM was sold in 2005 to a group of investors led by Sony. And basically, Sony wanted the library of films. And the reason why is because I don't know if you remember, there was, what was it, HD, DVD, right, and Blu-ray. Those were the two competing. I'm pretty sure it was HD. This is where I wish we had Research Lucas to look it up. But basically, it was Blu-ray against, I'm pretty sure, HD, DVD. And there were two different systems, two different platforms providing the same thing, high-definition movies. I always knew Blu-ray was going to win because it was just such a beautiful term, like Blu-ray, HD, DVD. Like, it's just a mouthful. Yeah. But anyway, Sony ended up winning the war. It became the standard for all these movies. And what helped them do that is when they acquired MGM, because they could put out all these movies that HD, DVD, which I'm pretty sure, I want to say it was Microsoft. I'm pretty sure it was Microsoft. But anyway, that's what helped them to get this. Anyway, long story short, and it was the 4,000 movies that you had said about. But anyway, the studio went bankrupt in 2010 and basically just got purchased. So some of the things you had mentioned, James Bond, RoboCop is like when you read the list, like who cares about RoboCop? Like, really, why is it on this list?
So first of all, I'm a big fan of RoboCop.
Are you really?
Don't get it twisted.
Oh my god!
First movie is a work of art, but practically speaking, this gives Amazon an opportunity to adapt that into, you know, a TV series if it hasn't already been. So like all these franchises, you know, do resonate. You know, with still definitely with people.
Can't believe you like RoboCop.
That could be a gold mine. I love RoboCop.
I mean, a lot of people do, dude.
Hold on. When's the last time you seen RoboCop 1?
I remember it, dude. I'll be honest with you. I remember it. And when that guy gets his hand shot off, like to this day, I think about that scene when he shoots his hand off. And dude, as a musician, like as an artist, like especially as a musician, like I was just like, no, fuck this movie.
Okay. I think you should give it a chance because that happens in like the first 5 minutes.
I know, I get it. It was a cool show.
There's another like remaining 2 hours.
I saw the second one. The second one wasn't as bad. Like the first one, it is a good movie, but it's just all right. Well, I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to tell you, but. Okay. Whether or not you listen, it's up to you.
All right, fair enough. All right, so The Hobbit. I can get down with The Hobbit. Love The Hobbit, by the way. Interestingly enough, by the way, James Bond, Amazon's only owned 50%. There is I guess there's twins or siblings that actually own the remaining just a little over 50%. So they actually have the share that can, controlling shares. So they can really take the movie in whatever direction they want. So it's not like Amazon's going to be able to make the movies. I mean, I'm sure they can make them, but they won't have the final decision. The Hobbit, would you like The Hobbit?
Product placement.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
All right, Lord of the Rings, all that. Rocky, bro. Fucking Rocky, dude. Hell yeah. I'm glad Rocky's in it. You know, Adrian, Philadelphia.
All the movies are decent.
The movies are great, dude.
I like the newer Rocky movies as well.
Dude, they're all freaking great. Even Creed. Did you see Creed?
No, I actually didn't. Okay, excuse me. I didn't see that spin-off.
I mean, they're not. Yeah, dude. Basically, Rocky. You know, Sylvester Stallone becomes a coach for this kid. He got nominated for an Academy Award for his role in the. It's a really, really good movie. Haven't seen the second one. The Addams Family. Cool, right? It's cool. Sure. Bill and Ted. Hell yeah. Bill and freaking Ted. Did you see the most recent one?
No.
Really?
No,
It's really, really good. It's really, really good. They basically did what Star Wars did when they brought back The Force Awakens. They summed up all 3 movies in this, in one movie for The Force Awakens. That's kind of what they did in this one. They just, redid everything. Really, really good. Legally Blonde, sure. I like Legally Blonde. I watched the first.
It is a good movie.
It's a good movie. They're both good, even the sequel. So the Pink Panther, okay, sure. Doo-doon, doo-doon. G.I. Joe, Jump Street, The Barbershop with Ice Cube, Clash of the Titans, Hot Tub Time Machine. First one's great. Didn't see the second one. Poltergeist, anyone?
See, I'm still having a hard time taking you seriously at all right now because you're a fan of all these movies.
But not RoboCop?
And not the first RoboCop, which is
it was a good movie, dude. I just don't love it, man.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's all right, though.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So Poltergeist, Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid's Tale, awesome. Margaret Atwood. She has an amazing masterclass for those of you masterclass subscribers. If you are a writer out there, they haven't gotten one on investing yet. I've been waiting for it because I'm sure it'd be great. But if you're a writer out there, but Margaret Atwood has a great one. Anyway, Handmaid's Tale. Shark Tank, big fan. The Voice, big fan. So it'll be interesting to see.
I love Shark Tank.
I love Shark Tank. Yeah, Shark Tank is awesome.
Show.
Especially as an investor, because you learn what these guys look for, and some of the fundamentals that they look for as well. Donald Trump's The Apprentice. Hell yeah. So I was a huge fan of that. Celebrity Apprentice, Regular Apprentice, all that. So 175 million Prime members streamed content in the last year, setting it near Netflix's 203 million. So the question is, are they going to catch up to Netflix? But it's cool with Amazon Prime. You basically get Amazon Prime. You get all the freaking 2-day delivery, which is amazing, and you get Amazon Prime. So they definitely have something going for them. Even though Amazon Prime, I think, is like 120, 130 bucks. So it's about 20, 21 bucks a month. So, but yeah, I guess the question is, do they end up taking over Netflix because of this? Do more people sign up? That's what's going to be really interesting. Obviously, this is a really small part of Amazon's overall revenue. But still, if they add subscribers, that's going to show power, and that's definitely going to make the stock jump. And you want to talk about Amazon as well, whether it's not it's ready for a breakout, whether or not you feel as if, a lot of these growth stocks are breaking out. So please take it away.
Yeah, if you look at the 5-year chart, the only point I'll make out is that we've spent the past, really year, almost year, building out this support channel, really respecting that, we'll call 3,000-ish price level.
Sure. I mean, 3,300. Good Lord.
Yeah, on the upper end of the range. And I mean, it looks like, honestly, from a chart analysis perspective, that we're kind of painting a bull flag on the, 5-year chart. And it looks like, given we're having, difficulties breaking that 3,000 level or really closing any weekly candles below that level,
sure,
it seems like we're ready to move higher. I mean, if sellers can't get this thing down below 3,000 at one point, it's going to resolve in the other direction, and that's my prediction for this. I think we're going to move higher. Amazon hasn't
such a beast,
weakened at all.
No, at all.
Fundamentally, not at all. I mean, it's just down.
Because what happened was people were like, "Holy shit, this Amazon thing is just so freaking just." Like, it's just so convenient. You want something, it's there. I mean, even if you want groceries, they bought freaking Whole Foods. If you want groceries, they'll deliver them the same day.
Yeah, and this MGM move just illustrates how serious Amazon is, in terms of moving into, entertainment, in terms of, slowly bleeding its influence into these other sectors and industries. So, I mean, where it stops, Democrats haven't really, attacked Amazon. Like I'm hearing less and less about antitrust.
I mean, Trump did.
So yeah. So I mean, Trump also had a personal dispute with Amazon CEO.
Yeah, of course.
And the newspaper.
Because he's like, bitch, I'm worth so much more money than you. Don't even bring it over here. All that blabber. So the question is, will this push Netflix to buy AMC, which I've been like just predicting, begging for? Like,
that would be cool.
I've talked about how amazing it would be, the partnership. 100%.
It would. And just Netflix could like free stream its movies.
Yeah, you just go to the movie theater, you watch the Netflix movies for free. You still buy your popcorn and all that stuff.
Still spend $30 on popcorn and soda. So.
And that's where they make most of their money anyway. Your soda costs 25 cents. Your popcorn costs 25, 50 cents. The butter you put on it costs more than the popcorn. So I just, I've been talking about it. It'd be interesting. I just keep saying it, man. We'll see what happens. So, all right. So the Feds, with the FOMC, we've been talking about what could possibly. Let me bring up the VIX. It's our house chart. We like to keep it around. Man, all these pop-ups. I'm gonna have to. It's been a while since I've used this. So anyway, so the Feds, with what's going on and with inflation, and the big question is whether or not they're going to raise interest rates and all that. So what do you got?
So the Fed right now is starting to slowly change its tone as far as these asset purchases are concerned.
Sure.
What we'll likely see during the next meeting is some sort of indication that they're willing to not like reverse tactics and, pull their support completely from the market, but maybe reconsider like the breadth and scope of some of these asset purchases.
Sure.
They're still, their balance sheet is still at almost $8 trillion right now. So they're still there. There's still a presence in the treasury market, in the bond market. Yeah. And they're just putting all this paper onto the books. And the question is, at one point, when do they begin to taper? When do they say, okay, the economy can sustain on its own right now? We've got employment back at, its old 52-week high. Inflation, that's obviously a big thing on their plate right now.
Yeah.
But maybe once these industrial suppliers get back to capacity, inflation comes back down and the supply chain kind of normalizes, and because that's obviously the big driver of price.
And that's the biggest issue right now.
Yeah. People can't get goods and materials, and they have to pay a premium. So that jacks up prices, and that hits the consumer too.
Yep.
The question is it, and not to go off on a tangent, is that going to suppress consumer spending? Will consumers balk at increased, prices for goods and services? And the jury's still out on that one, because they're still receiving unemployment stipends. So if you're unemployed, you still have some buying power. The federal government's making sure to that. And you still have
a lot of states are ending it. Actually, here in Florida, it's funny. So the company I work for, we need people and couldn't get any resumes. And Florida was like, okay, well, you get basically 1 month. That was a week ago. 1 month, we're canceling the federal. All of a sudden, resumes start popping in, And so that's ending for a lot of places, which is going to push things. But you were talking about, you had mentioned, and we talked about how wages are going to go up because they can't hire people, and that could counterbalance what's going on with inflation. But if companies can't get the goods, like let's say you need a fuse, and this fuse is needed to make this chip, and this chip is needed to make this car, like there's a whole chain of events that's, maybe that fuse can't get the glass or the, the wires or to make just the fuse. So there's a lot of issues going on right now, which I feel like it's going to continue through the summer, maybe even into the fall.
Yeah. Still, do you still think inflation is transitory at this point, given the unique situation we're in?
I don't think so.
Or do you think inflation is here to stay?
I think until the end of the year, I think it's here to stay. But at the same time, here's the thing: shipping, trying to get materials, trying to hire people back to work so you can get the materials. So my cousin's company is looking, paying $20,000 just to get drivers, just a sign-on bonus. So there's a lot of issues out there with finding people for employment, with trying to get the materials. A lot of the materials has to do with transportation. So I feel like until that gets worked out, we are going to be dealing with inflation, which I think is going to take until the end of the year for things to get worked out.
Yeah. If there's inflation, that means a lot of these producers have yet to meet capacity, which means they've yet to hire enough people, which means that they're offering more competitive wages.
Yeah.
So
true.
like it just, we'll see how it shakes out. But right now it looks like people still have their buying power, there, and they're still consuming, and it's still driving economic growth.
So here, I live in Miami, and we have a lot of major resorts here. And I'm not going to name the resort, but there's a major resort here. There's a client of mine, and bro, they charge, $500 a night for this holiday weekend. They were selling like crazy. All right, $600, $700, $800. Okay, now you have to buy 5 nights, $900, $1,000. Like it's just like, and they're sold out. $1,000 a night, sold out, and you got so. People are looking to go out. People are looking to spend money. People are tired of all this crap with, obviously here things are different a little bit here in Florida. So I feel like people are going to spend money. People are going to get more wages, higher wages. People are going to go back to work. I think things are going to work themselves out. But getting a supply chain moving it's not easy. There's just a lot of things that have to happen way down the line, lower on in the food chain, that it's also struggling to kind of jumpstart things.
And that's what maybe to kind of tie off this conversation about the Fed and the possibility of tapering their asset purchases. That's something that I think is driving this now growing story about the Fed possibly having to, announce some sort of alteration to their current strategy.
Such as?
Is that going to spook? Such as kind of like, tapering asset purchases. I don't think they're going to announce any change in interest rates.
Sure.
They would have already kind of massaged that in, and so that markets would have time to react. But
I feel like they said they're not going to raise it for a long time anyway. So
yeah, a long time. Yeah, but there's still speculators out there right now, given how inflation is really
0.25%,
ramped up.
Just a 0.25%.
Who think that might happen?
Sure.
Yeah. And they used to do that. Remember,
a couple
years ago, that they used to go like quarter. But now it's all or nothing. They have to pre-announce their pre-announcement just to keep markets stable.
It's true.
And that being said, these are smart people. They have so many asset purchase, programs currently at play. No one understands them. They're hard to explain. So if they were to come out and announce something, it's the market might have like a delayed reaction if they have a reaction at all.
Sure.
So
sure.
They adjustments will happen. I think the big interest rate hike, pre-announcement is still out there. It's coming, just not now.
Sure. Yeah. So 1 year from now, we might raise it just a little bit. All right. Well, let's move on. Well, actually, before we move on, if you're still watching, we appreciate it. Please subscribe, like. Everyone's like, hit that bell so we put out a new video. Listen, if you like the show, you're gonna come back. Don't worry about the bell. It's not a big deal. If you like the show, you'll come back and watch us again, won't you? So, all right. So everyone's favorite segment, 3 charts with Matt. And so we do have the VIX out. That is our house chart. It's been a bumpy ride, but still below 20. It had another spike that got crushed. As you've been saying, every spike is going to get crushed. Still below 20, man. Beautiful thing.
Still below 20. This may be the new norms, us in the high teens right now. I think that's a high possibility. We started closing below 20 way back in late March.
Sure.
And so, we've had some time. We've obviously seen some reaction bounces. We had a pretty nice one back in mid-May.
Yep.
But that was quickly crushed, that bounce. And, now we're back below 20. And the question is, Do we, fight our way below that fresh low set back in April? I think 15.6, spot 7, something in that area.
Yeah.
Because if we do that, like my guess is we go down to at least the 14 level and maybe have a little bounce there. But clearly, in spite of all these inflation fears, in spite of all this, Fed taper talk, in spite of, all these questions surrounding new COVID variants, surrounding the reopening, how that will impact small businesses, this general sense among institutional investors that once the tide clears, there will be skeletons there to pick through, and that could be concerning for markets. In spite of all that, in spite of all the fear and paranoia, volatility is still going down. It's still being managed lower by a lot of these big institutional investors, and that's that's telling, I think.
Sure.
That's ultimately good for long-term portfolios, for retirement accounts, which is good for consumption, which is good for growth, which is good for corporate earnings.
Consumption,
which is good for stock prices.
For sure.
So,
well, we'll see, man. It's been interesting seeing this thing go for its ride, that's for sure. But staying below 20 is definitely a good thing. And regardless of inflation, everyone has a sentiment that things are getting better, and they are getting better, and it's going to continue to get better. So hopefully this pushes the VIX down even further. All right, so next up on the line is COPX, which is the Copper Miners ETF. So, and this is one you've spoken about a couple times. Very, very choppy. It's kind of interesting. It's very, very choppy run. It kind of goes up, and then it comes down, and then it jumps up, and then it jumps down, and then it spikes, and then it dips. So, but it's, it's had an interesting run. Definitely struggling a little bit right now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we talked about industrial producers, suppliers having a hard time meeting capacity.
Yeah.
And this chart is a reflection of that. Copper is a major industrial input. Producers can't produce enough. They can't hire enough people to work mines, to work the refinement, facilities. So that is putting upward pressure on prices. I bring this chart up because I think copper has tremendous upside. It's like I said, probably the second most important industrial input here and globally. You still have China consuming copper on a very large scale right now, although they say they might, taper those purchases off to help control, pricing.
Sure.
And it had a dip recently, but it's respecting that 50-period moving average, as is a lot of commodities right now. If you look at, oil ETS, USO, if you look at timber, tin, steel, ash, they're all respecting their 50-period moving averages right now, which is a good sign. All those commodities are in clearly defined uptrends. They're, they're off their peak, but it looks like this is a viable dip right now, especially in copper. And I think if you're looking for a good long-term addition to your portfolio, this is it. COPX sitting right now at 41.24. We're already seeing a bounce off that 50 period. And, if we see follow through, you're looking at that $50 level. And, if you really think inflation is here for at least the next year, that means, this stock still has upside.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. Out of somebody who hit us up on Market Peak is like, with the supply and everything that's going on, I think he was talking about AMD, and the chip supply shortage and whether that's bad for the company and bad for the stock and all these shortages. Obviously they make it difficult for the company, but when you have shortages like this, that means that you're running super, super lean. It's not like you're just out there spending money and everyone's working and blah, blah, blah. Like you're cutting back. That also means as things start to ramp up, as the economy gets moving, as supply chains fill, that means that there's a tremendous amount of room for growth. So those of you out there, like, just, really afraid that supply is going to hurt some of these companies, don't get me wrong. There are plenty that are going to hurt. When you talk about copper and lumber and all these raw material companies, I don't think you're going to have to worry too much about supply hurting the stock that much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, last but not least, SPG. So this is Simon Property Group, and this is one you kind of want to talk about. Obviously, I mean, on the commercial side, it's one thing, but on the residential side, man, there are just not enough houses, and every house that's being sold is getting several bids. We're not even gonna do an estimate on it, or we're not going to inspect it. Or I've even read where people buying the house will say, listen, just let me buy the house. I'll give you 2 weeks in my cabana in Fiji, just to get them to sell the freaking house, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that, stems all the way back to, these industrial producers not being able to meet demand with current capacity. And so I'm looking at SPG because it has not only closed above, but really demolished that old breakdown candle low setback, or breakdown candle high, setback, during the COVID crash last March at, 124. So it's looking healthy. We're steadily grinding higher. Simon Property Group is a mall owner. It's a mall REIT. People are getting back to malls. They're spending more. There's renewed faith in, commercial real estate right now, at a time when, people are still kind of wondering exactly how the numbers are going to shake out as in terms of your revenue.
Sure.
Are these commercial real estate holders, trusts, are they going to take a big hit? Have they collected all their rent? In the case of SPG, I think it's a good bet that, revenues might still be down year over year, but there's enough, speculative fervor out there. There's enough interest among investors in these value stocks and, like some of these final frontiers like commercial real estate to still put upward pressure on the stock price.
Sure.
And SPG is one of the larger commercial real estate trusts out there, investment trusts out there. So, clearly people are looking to dump money into something.
People are looking to go shopping
everywhere. Yeah.
Dying to go shopping,
Yeah.
That's for sure. Business office space, that's a tough one. Because, I mean, we've talked about on the show where banks are just going to let, I think it's JP Morgan's going to let 40% of its workforce just work from home. Office space, that's going to be a tough one. That's for sure. You might see a lot of roller rinks pop up for no reason. That's for sure.
They do seem to coincide with changes in economic sentiment.
Man, I haven't been to a roller rink in so long, bro. Roller rink used to be my jam. So REITs. So that was,
but not RoboCop.
Yeah, not RoboCop, man. I just
heard some value today.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Can't let that one go.
Wrong.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean,
what about Total Recall? Did you like Total Recall?
So the first one was amazing. The second one was dumb. The one they redid, they didn't even go to Mars, bro. That was the greatest part. Of course, I like Total Recall. I can get into that.
Well, of course you do. Not RoboCop, but
no, not they're too space, and cool dreams and technology and this and that, as opposed to a guy that got freaking obliterated and they turned him into this half-minded robot slave dude. Sorry, I didn't mean to diminish
himself at the end. It's an interesting character arc, but okay. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure. I didn't mean to diminish your favorite show there at the end.
Fine.
Am I an asshole?
It's fine. It's fine.
So, all right. So predictions for, I guess, Tuesday, where I assume we're expecting the market to be up. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, shortened trading week, low volume.
Sure.
That's my expectation.
100%. Space, I expect to... Wow. You know what? I still expect it to go down because I just feel like these short sellers and their stupid, dumb lawsuit is just going to expand and make things worse. AMC, you're expecting AMC and GME to both kind of move up a little bit still?
Yes. there are a lot of people shorting this most recent peak.
Sure.
So I'd anticipate, possibly a little more squeezing to occur.
Okay.
So.
All right. Rock on. Well, please don't forget to check out our Big Brother show, Because We Said So. So, leave us a thought, comment with your thoughts, an email with your thoughts. Once again, like, subscribe, all that neat stuff. And any last minute thoughts?
No, play carefully in markets right now. There's a lot of rotation occurring,
sure.
But don't lose faith in the trend.
Yeah,
trend is up.
For sure. All right, well, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys soon. Boom.